Hello and welcome to the next in my series of conversations where I discuss areas around resilience, challenge, and tenacity, amongst other things. These are areas I've always been interested in as part of my personal and professional developments and the benefits that come when we challenge ourselves or come out of our comfort zone. From this interest, my business Noodle was born. I get a great sense of pride of seeing how people grow and develop when they challenge themselves to something they've never tried before or thought they could do. I've been developing this to help people in their working life and particularly leadership roles to see how they can stretch their horizons and become more resilient. There's never been a greater time when we've had our resilience called on than during COVID-19, I think we'll agree. So I'm delivering this series of discussions and webinars with people I admire for the skills and techniques they use to develop people and see how we can adapt some of these to use in our everyday lives to improve our resilience, motivation, communications, amongst other things. So today I'm going to be talking to Tom Frearson. Tom is the head coach and founder of Fearsome, a company set up with the mission to help more people to achieve their full potential through fitness, nutrition, lifestyle and adventure. A former Royal Marines Commando, keen triathlete and mountaineer, Tom has been coaching me over the past 2 years in my triathlon pursuits. Like me, he recognises the power of resilience, tenacity and challenge. I'll be talking to him about these qualities amongst others and how he has to channel these qualities even more so over the past year to pivot his business and the way he works. So welcome, Tom.
Hello.
And how are you doing today?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Excited about the upcoming changes to our social environment and also the spring. It's my favourite time of year for especially working outside all the time.
Of course, great. Yes, we can all see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel as well, which is good. So if we just sort of kick off, you can tell us a bit about your military background and how you've taken that and applied it to not only your everyday life, but also to inspire others.
Sure. So background is former Royal Marines Commando, as you said. I did a combat tour of Afghanistan in 2010. After that, I went into private security, working for an all ex-Marine team, a company, basically doing armed bodyguard in Somalia, Nigeria regions. And that was great, very challenging. Used all of my skills from the military and some new ones because I was a team leader out there delivering that. And then I moved into fitness. I work for a military company delivering boot camp sessions in central London, running the UK's largest boot camp, and then set up my own business in fitness, just taking my passion for fitness from the military and all of my skills into account to sort of build a business to literally inspire others. And our ethos and our mission statement is as you said, it's to help more people achieve their full potential through fitness, nutrition, lifestyle and adventure. And that's what we do every single day. And I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah, and so you should be. It's a great business. So to talk a little bit more about that military background life, and I know a phrase you hear is adapt and overcome in relation to the commandos. How have you brought these values into your business specifically?
One of the key things there, and it's actually missing from that statement, that's really important, and most people do miss it, is improvise, adapt, and overcome. Because improvisation on the spot is what we're very good at and we're trained to do. Because things go wrong, and it's there's another saying, no cuff too tough, and that basically means just if you need to, just cuff it and see how you get on. That's the improvised part, but you adapt very quickly, and we overcome those solutions. So that's something that's really, really drilled into us from day one, week one, and I've taken through my whole life in everything, especially in the current environment and the way things have changed. Not just as a business owner, but as a leader to a community and a team of instructors, improvise and adapt and overcome very quickly to make sure that people have got someone to look forward to and someone to look to for inspiration has been absolutely key. And we've had to improvise and adapt and then therefore overcome constantly of recent times. I'm not saying I didn't do it before that, but it was a lot less like stressful, let's say, and since I left the security business. But it's really challenged those skills and made me hone them in a different way in a peacetime civilian environment of how I can use them to help people.
It's interesting you said that. A lot of people have been comparing this situation to being like in wartime, but some sort of war scenario, but which is a bit extreme, especially from somebody like you who knows what that is really like. But so is there anything we can all learn in this current situation to make ourselves more resilient in that way? What are the key things from those messages?
I've heard people discuss that we're likening it to wartime, but I've actually done the same. Because it's all about perspective. For wartime, we were trained to go to war. We were trained for a particular job. We knew where we were going. We were trained what to expect. But people here have had no training for this. You're not skilled in how to deal with this lack of social contact and all the things that have come with it. So when you liken it to war, yes, they're two completely different extremes. But at the same time, this is sometimes harder because we don't know, in a combat situation, I knew my tour was going to last, say, 7 months. We don't know a time scale. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And things have constantly changed. Instead of, understanding that the threat's there every single day and you deal with that, this has been a very different experience for people. And I understand why people do liken it, and I can really, really respect that.
Yeah, so I mean that's I've heard a few people say that about it's almost acknowledging that this isn't a normal situation, and you have to kind of allow yourself to react to an abnormal situation. It is normal to feel like this in an abnormal situation. So how would you say, taking into account this is a very unusual situation, what can we learn from this to make ourselves more resilient?
I think everybody has learned and become more resilient, regardless of what you're doing at the minute. And the improvise, adapt, overcome has become part of everyday's lives, if not on a daily basis, but a weekly basis with the changes. And just learn from it and learn that you can do that and come out the other side of this. There is a light at the end of the tunnel now, but come out the other side of it as a stronger person and be proud of yourself for that you've adapted to something that we didn't see coming. It wasn't planned for. And if you're still standing, you're doing a really good job. And that's the lesson I would learn from it, is know that you can pretty much do anything if you've managed to get through this.
I think wise words. I often have said to people that I feel we should all be given some sort of COVID badge at the end of this to say that we lived through it.
Absolutely.
I think, we can all agree that this is such a challenging situation that we're all in, and we're having to change the way we work and approach things. What have you found has been the biggest challenge for you, and how have you worked around it?
The biggest challenge for me is I'm a real people person. I like to be with people. I like to help people along and coach people, not just my clients, but my team, and then just, helping as many people as possible. So the biggest challenge has been how to change from the face-to-face contact, which is very important, to the online contact, and keep my team motivated, which therefore keep the clients motivated, and just trying to keep a constant contact with them has been very challenging, because there's a lot of Zoom fatigue or whichever platform you're using, and people are getting tired of that. So it's important. And one thing that I've found really useful is voice notes. Instead of a text message, which seems to be the norm outside of these video calls, is just send a quick voice note to somebody, and hearing that voice is really nice. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember what they sound like, because you may not have seen them on a Zoom call for a while because there's been no need for it. And I think that is a really good way to interact with people.
I agree. I think that's a really good tip, and it's something that I only started to really do, I think last year as well. And there's a lady that I go swimming with sometimes, and instead of sending texts, I think I was in a rush sometime, and I just sent a voice note, and she came back with one saying, oh, it's so nice to hear that. And I like it that you like using those. And it just made me feel like there's somebody out there that's speaking to me rather than just sort of sending me a message. So yeah, good tip. How do you, in normal times, constantly challenge yourself? I mean, obviously challenge is a big part of your life.
Yeah, so let's call it a bit of an addiction, maybe, to be pushed out of my comfort zone. So, I don't like being uncomfortable. So whether it be in training in the Marines, whether it be combat, whether it be in hostile situations all over the world doing security, whether it be whatever those situations, what I like about it is the feeling after the discomfort, when you're back in your comforts, and it makes you really, really appreciate things. It's a little bit like we're going to really, really appreciate just going to the pub or seeing a friend for dinner or things like that. Things that we've taken for granted for a long time. So what I've always done in normal times is challenge myself with events. So Ironman races, and mountaineering, so I'm a mountain leader, so I take people into the mountains and all sorts of weather conditions for myself. And when you come back off let's just say that, you finish an Ironman race, you feel absolutely exhausted, you don't want to be there towards the end, but the point is the feeling afterwards and how much you appreciate just sitting down having a meal when you've been on the go for 10 hours is phenomenal, and that doesn't wear off. And I would say I'm trying to recreate the feeling all the time that I had when I came back from Afghanistan. Everything. I just look around and be like, oh, a glass of cold water, amazing. Just, oh, I can speak to these people and feel safe, amazing. And it just, over time, that sort of disappears. So it's nice to challenge yourself, push yourself out your comfort zone, and therefore appreciate your comfort zone when you're back in it.
Yeah, I agree. And I totally echo that feeling, sort of chasing that feeling, not quite Afghanistan, haven't been there, but yeah, I can resonate with that. I think I've sort of spoken about this a bit before, that I believe that the more we introduce small challenges into our lives, whatever they are, the more resilient we become. We spoke a little bit about that earlier. And you obviously work with a range of people. So how do you work with them to identify their individual goals, to challenge them to just the right level? And there must have been some great positive effects you've seen as a result of this, and maybe how it impacts on someone's wider life beyond just their sort of physical, training.
Absolutely. So it's all about questions. You ask people questions and they give themselves the solution. So I'll constantly, whenever I'm dealing with a client, whether it be a group exercise session or a one-on-one sort of transformational coaching where I'm spending a lot of time with someone for 12 weeks, I'll ask them lots of questions, because most of the time they've got the answer within them and they just don't quite know how to articulate it. But also they don't know what it actually is until you ask the right questions. So that's the usual way that I, kind of help people to help themselves and then provide them with the resources. You also need to be very, very good at understanding people, understanding their motivators, but understanding whether they're the type of person that needs a carrot or a stick. And people need these at different times. And if you get it wrong, it can be bad, very bad. And I've not always got it right, that's for sure. Been sworn at in a group exercise class or something like that. And I know I've gone too far. But it's knowing that balance. And I would say in my business and in many businesses, I've met some amazing coaches technically that have got the best degrees and the best qualifications, and their technical knowledge is way, way better than mine. But their ability to deliver it to different people and adapt that very quickly, improvise, adapt, and overcome very quickly when a situation changes or someone's tired or they've done something they don't want to, is key. And that's the skill. That's what makes a good trainer become an amazing trainer.
So when you've worked with people that, are training for races, like, you've trained me to do half Ironman and so on, there's the big part of, how well have they done in the race, and, have they reached those physical, technical goals? Is there anything else that people have demonstrated to you that you think, wow, that's obviously gone wider than this race for them or into bigger parts of their life?
Yeah, when fitness is a vehicle, and training and exercise and all the wellness topics, fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, and mindset, they're all a vehicle to help you in the rest of your life. We're not professional athletes. So the point there is by training harder, you become more resilient to certain factors. Physically, your cardiovascular system, your energy, your immune system all become more resilient, but your mind becomes more resilient. And it's seeing people take those skills and those challenges and those lessons and those achievements and those failures, that's the big thing, and using them in the day-to-day life to propel themselves forward in their relationships, their business. It's the triangle. It's health, wealth, and relationships, the three of those. And tying the three together is what makes it successful for people. It's not just about the health. If they succeed in that, 9 times out of 10, they'll start succeeding in other things.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. I can see that, definitely. I want to talk a little bit about motivation, and particularly again looking at current times. Every morning we get up and see the news headlines. It can be quite demoralizing, demotivating. So do you have any tips for how we can manage our mood and turn these negative thoughts around?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's easy to get sucked into that. I don't read the news. I hardly look at the news apart from as an announcement, simply because if the information is important, somebody else will tell me. But I do understand that people are interested in this and like to see it every single day. One thing I would say is the only person that can make these stories and these situations affect you personally is you. The information's out there. It's how you digest it and what you do with that information. Something that I do personally that I've talked to you about before is I am a massive fan of this book, The Daily Stoic. It lives next to me every day. I read one page, one quote from Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus or someone like that, and it's broken down and it explains it in everyday life. And generally what they're talking about is control what you can control, and the rest of it, yeah, it's a problem, but you can control your environment. You can control how that comes into you. It's like would you let a bad person into your house? Well, no. Well, don't let bad things into your house either. If they're in your house, deal with them. But if they're not inside your house, well, they're not really your problem, are they?
That's very good. And I like the fact when you say you try not to watch that much news because someone else will tell you about it. I think it's so easy to get drawn into that, and there's not much positivity going on, is there? So it's best to sort of restrict that for sure. And I'm definitely going to look up that book.
Yeah, it's very good.
And in terms of motivation, I know you work a lot with groups, sort of doing team working and boot camp activities. And I know from experience that we can feel a lot more motivated when we're exercising with others, and that'll sort of spur us on a lot. What effect do you think the COVID restrictions, fingers crossed, hopefully getting lifted soonish, but what are they having on people's physical well-being? And do you have any tips to help manage this?
Physical well-being isn't necessarily the biggest problem. Their mental well-being, which is very closely linked to their physical well-being, is the problem. A lot of people, and there's been a lot of research into the social impacts of group exercise and exercising just with others on your physical advancements, but also your mental state. I think that's the biggest problem that we need to address. And one thing that we've tried to do as a business is try to keep our communities going by organising, activities, by pairing people up to do buddy up exercises, because a lot of our clients live alone. And they're in London, they're on their own, and London can be a very lonely place. But even more so if you live in alone and you cannot go out and meet people and do exercise group classes, that's one of your social aspects. So something we've done, for example, is do a buddy up system, and we created a WhatsApp group, and you could put yourself on there because you're allowed to exercise with one other person from outside your household as long as you're socially distanced. And we tell them to meet up with that person and stay safe, but then go and do the exercise class that we're doing live online. They put the phones down in the park and they do it next to each other, and they just feel like they're part of a community. And that's one key thing that we've tried to keep striving people forward with, to just not be alone. You're not alone in this. Everybody's going through this, but lots of people are going through it alone. So if you can get together with other people, whether it be virtually or in person safely when it's possible to do so, I highly suggest that, and that's been very successful for us.
Yeah, that's definitely a very good technique I've seen you take up with the sort of team working. You have touched on that a little bit with in terms of communications. So again, you've usually worked with clients face to face, and just to sort of talk in a bit more depth about how you and your team have adapted to delivering things online. Is there anybody that you think is, just really struggling with that? And have you had to make any separate adaptations or anything?
The biggest problem with people moving to online is people that are either tech phobes or just older potentially, and just doesn't want to do the tech, and they don't want to be looking at a screen. That's probably been the hardest thing, and trying to find ways for them to do things. We've got one client, for example, who he doesn't even have a mobile phone. He has an email address that I think his wife checks, and he doesn't have a mobile phone. He's not interested in it. And he's one of our clients, and we work it out. We work out a way he can't, when we're in face-to-face, he doesn't book classes because we book classes via an app, but he hasn't got an old school mobile phone, let alone a smartphone. But one thing that he's been doing through the Buddy Up is to speak to somebody else, and he goes for runs and does exercises at the benches around the park with this other person. And that's been amazing to see, because sometimes I'll be PTing in the park and I'll see the pair of them nice and safely again run past and be doing exercises at trees and things like that. And that adaptation has got this person through these hard times, and that's a motivation. There's lots of research out there to show that if you're accountable to somebody else, if you agree you're going to go and meet somebody, then you'll do it. Sometimes we do that online. So when I'm doing coaching, they agree to meet me. You do. When we're coaching, I say to you all the time, yes, I can't be there for your training sessions, especially at the minute, but I am on your wrist. I am your watch, and I am going to see everything you do. And that is a way that I keep people motivated. And we've been doing that for a long time before COVID. But now it's ever so more important that they remember that I am with them, their coach is with them. And I think that's a key thing. It's that accountability, however you find it, be it in a partner, be it in a friend, be it in somebody completely you don't know, and you go running with and you see them every morning running past the same point and you say hello. If you're not there one morning, they're going to wonder where you are. That's accountability. And I think that is the biggest motivator you can have.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, we hear about it a lot when we talk about people trying to lose weight or things. Sometimes, tell everyone you're doing it and then tell them, I suppose, like you said with that example there, some people, if you're not on Strava or all these platforms and having everybody watching what you're doing, then it just does make a lot more of a struggle. So the Buddy Up thing, I think, is a great idea. Is there anybody that you think, with the current way it's been locked down and opened up and so on, are there people that you think might just not get back into exercising, or you sort of think it's a shame they've got to a certain point and now they kind of lost it? And
I'd like to think not, because I'd like to hope that we've reached out to those people individually and found a way around it. I do think certain people, not certain people, lots of people are struggling to get back into it again, because there's no certainty. Let's take into account people that planned events last year that are no longer doing those events, and they thought we're going to do them this year, and now it's looking very uncertain that they'll happen this year. And it's really hard to stay focused when you don't have a goal to go towards. And there's a few people that I'm will they ever get back to the same level they were at? I'm not sure. But like I said before, if you get through this and you've got your health, you've got a roof over your head, and you've got fans and friendly that you love you around you, you're winning, and the rest of it will come in time.
Yeah, that's true. And a good tip there about goal setting. It is difficult when events are all cancelled, and if that's been your motivator, to then you just have to think about changing it up in a way and giving yourself a different goal. Talking again, continuing on the theme of communications, and I know you spoke about this a little bit at the top of the conversation. Are there any learnings you can share to managers or people out there working with teams to help with their online communications when things start to get a little bit fatigued?
Talk as much as possible. You need to be talking as much as possible to people. Messaging, even voice notes, messaging can be taken completely the wrong way. When we're tired, when we haven't really spoke for a while, when we've forgot the way that person communicates to you, a message to one person can mean one thing and to another can mean something totally different. Whereas a voice note or a quick conversation can make a whole lot of difference. That would be the biggest thing. And something I've learned the hard way as well. I've made mistakes during this time, and I've said something and it's been taken the wrong way, and I thought, yes, I should have just spoken to the person on the phone. So things like that are key, and also communicate with your teams outside of work items. We just, and as an example, we run a program called Better Together, which is like a workplace wellbeing program, which is basically about getting people together to do maybe a bit of exercise or just a bit of walking and step count or drinking more water. And we set this program out to make it's around wellness, but it's all about getting them to communicate about something other than work, to share a new recipe they've done, to share an achievement they made of hitting 5,000 steps every day for 5 days or something, or maybe to share running a half marathon for the first time, and just something that's outside of work, that's personal to them. That would be my biggest tip. Make sure you're doing things like that.
Yeah, I mean, those are good sort of tips, because I think we've all got a bit used to, like, Zoom fatigue even stretches into Zoom quizzes, Zoom drinks, like that, and you think people just feel, no, I'm kind of over that. I want something a little bit of a different focus to it. So good tips there. Well, mental health and well-being are big sort of areas that are being discussed quite a lot nowadays, which is good in one way. But I think we're all out of our comfort zones just now during the pandemic, and mental health is suffering. We're all having to deal with different levels of stress. What do you think can be done to help people's mental health and well-being during these difficult times?
So, yes, definitely. The new levels of stress are bigger than ever before, I believe, with the current situation. I would say anybody, again, that comes outside of this is going to have a new tolerance, and you can learn from those situations to become stronger and more resilient for the future. That doesn't help you right now, though. So at the moment, I would say, in the military and in any security, and when it's high pressure situations, everything trains you to be stronger for the future. And that's what the hard training in the commandos is all about. With that, take every day and see what's happened today, journal, write it down, understand how that made you feel, so you can move forward tomorrow. Again, I come back to the principle of, and I use this all the time with people, is the threshold of your house. Your house is your safe haven. Hopefully, I know for some people it's not necessarily, and that's another issue in its own, but if your house is your safe haven, you control what comes across that threshold. You can't control things outside of it, but control what's in it. So control your environment, control your own thoughts to a certain degree. And also, I would say, use tools and resources like books and audiobooks and podcasts, just to really bring your focus back to try and level things and rationalize these hard times and these hard stress situations in a way that you can use them as a tool and a resource in the future.
You've got your book you're recommending, The Daily Stoic. Is there any other sort of daily routines or things that you have in place that you will always do, or mantras or whatever they are, that sort of help with your mental health, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So my mental health has come down to my exercise and doing exercise. I have a very strict morning routine and a very strict night routine that pretty much nothing interrupts it apart from my son. But generally I'll make allowances for that, so it could happen. And that is, my alarm goes off at the same time every day I get up. I do a stretching routine for about 10 minutes every single morning. I sit down, I have some water, I read my daily stoic before I even get on with my day. And I sort of get myself into that right mind frame, make any notes that I need to do. And that really helps set me up. And the next thing after that, if I'm not seeing clients straight away in the morning, is exercise. Straight into exercise, get it done early morning, even if it's 20 minutes, even if it's 15 minutes, or a 5-minute Tabata workout, doesn't matter. I'll do something to get my heart rate up, and that will set me up for the day, and I feel awesome. And then when it comes to a night routine in the evening, it's all planned out. It's all set in my calendar. There's even an alarm that goes off to tell me to start my night routine. And that is to do my end of day, to make my notes and say what was good today, what stressed me today, how I can use it for the future. And then I prepare for tomorrow. So I make sure that all my, for me, it's nutrition and hydration is all set out, ready to go. My clothes are ready to go for the exercise in the morning. And having that morning and evening routine mentally, not just the things that are in it, but knowing that every single day I can rely on that structure, keeps me going all day and makes me move forwards and gives me a really positive start and end to every single day.
That's very good. And actually, you could make a lot of parents out there quite jealous if you were to share that. I think you've rubbed that routine off onto your son, who's now how old? And it seems to happen.
He's just coming up to 4 months, and from 6 weeks he started sleeping 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, and we've had a record of 13 hours and 15 minutes at night. in one go, not waking up, feeding perfectly in the day, nice and structured, eating lots of food, and then at night he just sleeps. And his routine is almost down to the minute. We have bad days, but he's currently, an average night is about 12 hours of sleep. So hopefully he's taken that on board and learned from his dad from an early age.
I think he has. It's kind of like, it's true what they say about it's all through your environment round about you. He's obviously thinking, no, this is my routine now. I've got to stick to this little brain.
Absolutely. Let's hope so.
So if there's one thing you'd like us to take away as a final sort of tip or takeaway, what would it be?
Couple of small points. Okay, the first one is there's a quote by a guy called Jim Rohn, a motivational American speaker, and he's a guy who trained. He's like Tony Robbins' mentor. You've probably definitely heard of Tony Robbins. And Jim Rohn is saying is you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself by. Now, that I believe that's very, very true to a certain degree. I don't believe you should exclude certain people from your life just because they don't add value to you as such. But at the minute, you are I am today the sum average of my cat, my son, my wife, and anybody I might speak to doing this kind of thing. That's my total surroundings today. But what I actually do every single day is surround myself by great minds. Whether it's reading this book in the morning or constantly listening to audiobooks. And I actually, a phrase that I stole off somebody else, but I love it, is I burn and learn. So I will go for a run and learn. I will go for a walk and learn. I'm burning calories and learning at the same time. If I'm driving, whatever I'm doing, I'm using my time to spend with great minds. Like recently, I've been spending it with David Goggins. Amazing audiobook is fantastic. You actually put me on to David Goggins, but his audiobook is amazing. Ross Edgley, the great British swim, The Art of Resilience, when he swam around the UK. Listen to these stories, it just makes you, even now it sends shivers down my spine, but listen to these stories and actually hearing that person tell you their story, I think is amazing. And that is one thing I take away. You're spending time with more people, but you're also learning every single day. And the other thing would be is, every day, do something that scares you. That's not my quote. I can't remember who did that quote, but it's someone very famous did a quote. Every day, do something that scares you, that pushes you outside your comfort zone. And every day, I make sure I do something that scares me. And that is what keeps me moving forwards. Even in hard times, it just makes you a better person the next day when you wake up in some way, whatever it might be.
Good. And I'm glad to hear you're onto David Goggins. As a little disclaimer out there for anybody who starts following him on Instagram, not for the faint-hearted, is he? He's a bit of a...
No. No, if you're easily offended or you don't like profanity, I would steer clear. But his story is phenomenal.
Yes, he's quite a guy. Thank you. That's been really giving me some loads of good tips in there as well. And before we wrap up at the end, I want to ask you, as I do with everybody, if there's a sort of favorite song, piece of music, something you listen to that would kind of sum up or help you in difficult times, challenging times.
With that, I've got lots of music I listen to. From a music point of view, when I need motivating, when I need that kick, it's the last song I listen to on the beach before I hand my earphones to whoever's with me in an Ironman. It's the last song I play in the car before I get out and go for a 4-day expedition in the mountains, and that's Thunderstruck by AC/DC. That song gets me going every single time. But as a day-to-day basis, I would say the music that I most like listen to is other people. And that's these audiobooks that I do, and I could not recommend it more. And that to me is better than any song. When I go running now, I just listen to audiobooks, and it spurs me on so much more.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Tom. It's been great spending this time with you. And as I say, I personally have picked up lots of tips that I'll be using, and I'm well done with everything you're doing, and they're managing to keep what is a traditionally face-to-face and outdoor business going, but in a very different way, and still getting to so many people. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.